Gil Fellon. I'm the owner, publisher of Spring Hill homepage, and Franklin homepage, and Berwick homepage, and Nolensville homepage. We are very excited to be the first media sponsor of an event like this, and we're very excited to be part of the news community in Spring Hill and Thompson Station. I wanted to introduce you to a few people that are on our team that are very involved in both of the cities down here. This is Greg Jinkerson. He is, will you stand up, Greg, so I can see your face? He's our Spring Hill compensation reporter. This is Jim East. He's our managing editor. Jessica Pace is our county and county schools reporter. And this is Mark Cook. He's going to be our moderator for the evening. Thank you all for coming. This is a great turnout. We're very excited to be here. I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and let's get started.
All right. Good evening and welcome to all the candidates tonight. Let me explain how this is going to work. We're going to ask questions that are a combination of questions from people that submitted them online. We've got a few of these. If you want any of these, we can have you submit questions. Just hold them up and we'll come pick them up. And we have questions put together by the news staff. You have 90 seconds to respond to each question. And then just hold up your hand. If you want to do a rebuttal, you'll have 30 seconds to do that. There'll be opening and closing statements just for the mayoral candidates, but we're kind of gonna go slow at first so you can sort of explain where you're coming from. And the citizen questions will be read precisely as they have been submitted. And we will identify the person who submitted that question. And first of all, I guess I'll go from left to right to get started, and I will ask the same question of all of you. How long have you lived in Thompson Station, and how many elections have you voted in? Brandon Bell, please.
I have been, my wife and I have been in Thompson Station for 2 years, Middle Tennessee for 3 years, and we have voted in the last 2 elections.
All right, Court Bethman, can you answer that question?
Yes, thank you. We moved to Thompson Station about 2 years ago. We had moved down, or we moved back to Tennessee from Texas. I went to law school in Texas, and we wanted to come back home to Tennessee. I'm originally from East Tennessee, but we found Nashville to be a great place and wanted to be in Williamson County. So we rented for a year up in Franklin, and looked around the area to figure out where we wanted to be, and discovered a beautiful place at Thompson Station, and were able to buy a house down here, get our kids into the schools that they wanted to be in, and we couldn't have found a better place. So that's why we moved down here and when we moved down here. As far as voting in elections, the last couple of years I've been definitely more active than the past. When I was in law school, there was one thing on my mind, which was reading books. And before that, I also voted in several elections. I can't recall exactly the number, but I've always been involved, and even in law school, I was very involved in politics, and traveled up and got to meet Justice Sam Alito in D.C. So that was kind of the highlight of my political leanings in law school. So I think that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Mike Roberts, can you tell us about how long you've lived in Thompson Station and how many elections have you voted in?
Okay, I've lived in Thompson Station for 17 years with my wife and 3 sons that it started with, and then they've all, 2 of the sons have grown and moved off with their families, and I have 1 son living at home right now. Your daughters are wanting to yell for you. And how many elections I voted in? Ever since I got out of the service, I've been an active voter. I can't recall an election that I've missed.
Okay, Graham Shepard, can you answer that question?
I've lived in Thompson Station almost 8 years. I believe we voted in the last 3 elections.
All right, just for everyone's edification, if you have lived in Thompson Station longer than 10 years, can you raise your hand? Wow, okay. Well, let's go back down on sort of the getting acquainted questions. Can you explain how your professional work experience makes you the best candidate, Brandon Bell?
I studied architecture at Drury University in Springfield, Missouri, and after I left architecture, after I graduated from architecture school, I went back to where I was from, which was Memphis, Tennessee, and lived in the urban built environment. My wife and I lived downtown on Harbor Town area, if anybody's familiar with Memphis. And we got to experience the kind of urban, dense, it's a planned development, very similar to some of our subdivisions in this town. And it was an experience that kind of helped me understand what density, what it does, how you live, how it's walkable, and so forth. I worked at Looney Riggs Kiss in Memphis, developing apartments and working on master plan developments that included homes and commercial and apartment complexes throughout the country. I worked there for 11 years and then came up here to start architecture in Sutherland. And Sutherland is very experienced with West Haven and other developments. But I have tools that are unique in the sense that I have design abilities. I can help guide this town as it grows and as it needs vision for being prepared for that growth. There's zoning ordinances and subdivision standards that need to be improved. I mean, we have stuff on the books, but they're probably not as strong as they need to be.
All right, thank you very much. Court Bethany, can you please tell us about how your work experience would influence your job as an alderman?
Sure. As I mentioned in the first question, I am a lawyer. I am licensed in Tennessee and in Texas. And that's not what I do. I don't work at a traditional law firm. I work at a trust and investment company in Franklin. And on a daily basis, I am a fiduciary. And what a fiduciary is someone who puts the client's needs ahead of their own. And I'm doing that on a daily basis. My clients are who I'm accountable to. And I think that's exactly what we need in an alderman. I think we need people that are accountable to the people in the town, in the neighborhood, in the more rural areas. But as an alderman, I don't think that any of us are elected to just serve, where we come from. 3 of us are from neighborhoods and 1 of us is not. But none of us need to be just representing that part of the town. And that's something that, like I said, I do it on a daily basis. I understand what it means. I get the concept of putting someone else's interest ahead of your own. So that's something that I would think, it is important to me, and that's something that I would do as an alderman.
Mike Roberts.
Okay. I'm a CPA by trade and a CGMA, which is a Chartered Global Management Accountant, recognized around the world. I've been a CPA for over 30 years. I own businesses. I still own businesses, and I've consulted with businesses the majority of my career. I help people make the decisions where they're trying to evaluate, should I come to a community? Should I open up in a different location or another location? For example, the decision process for opening up a McAllister, not a McAllister's, but a Carrabba's here in town. That's anywhere from $1.5 to $3 million decision. It's complicated, and the decision trees that they go through are similar to that a grocery store would go through. So I think my experience there in helping clients and helping businesses grow and prosper is going to help me help the town attract the right business, help them think through the right decisions. One other thing is strategic planning and vision. I led my part of the CPA practice I was with to become, my practice alone was larger than 50% of the CPA firms in the country. When I started with the firm, it was a small regional or local firm, and we became one of the top 50 in the country. I opened the first office outside the state. I taught them that they could have clients in every state of the union versus just locally. And I'm wired to be a strategic planning and vision.
All right, thank you very much. Graham Shepard.
Okay, I think this is not the time to be modest, I'm hoping, so I'll brag a little bit. I think on paper, there's no doubt in my mind I'm the most qualified candidate in terms of work experience and education. have 3 master's degrees, 1 in IT from the University of Virginia. I have an MBA from the University of Texas at Austin. And I also have a master's in political science from Northern Illinois University. So in terms of education, that's one thing. In terms of work experience, I believe my work experience is more diverse. My first career was as in the military. I served in the United States Army, so I'm a veteran. After I got out of the Army, I began my second career, and I've worked in public sector jobs, private sector jobs, nonprofit jobs. I have a lot of different work experience. Currently, I'm a finance manager at Nissan. So that's my background, those are my qualifications, and I do think as Thompson Station grows, problems we face are going to become more and more complex, and it would be good to get better educated, better qualified people addressing those problems. I think that's, I just think that's common sense, and I hope you agree. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to reverse it, so if you want to take a drink of water. We have a question from the staff, and it's very similar to a citizen's question. As I said, we're going to ask the citizens' questions exactly as they were offered. The staff question is, do you plan to file your financial reports tomorrow? What will those disclosures reflect? Matthew Gary submitted a question that says, would you be willing to make available to the public your donor lists so that the citizens could get a better picture of who you are and where your allegiances lie? Mr. Shepard.
Yes to all of that. My treasurer is here tonight. We put our financial disclosure statement in the mail. Again, I'm not sure if this is bragging again or not, but I believe I will have the least money spent at the campaign. I'm almost certain of it. And I'm going to say that's a positive, because I think there probably is too much money in this campaign. A lot of money being spent. And I'll make my donor list. It's a short list, so you might find some enjoyment reading it.
All right, Mike Roberts, can you tell us about your financial disclosures and your donors?
I have filed my financial disclosure list. It reflected that I spent a little over $4,000 so far. My donor list consists of me and my wife.
Okay, gets right to it. Court Bethman, how about you?
Wow. I didn't have $4,000 to put into my campaign, but I did put some of my own money into my campaign, a significant amount. I think I'm the largest donor to my campaign. But yes, all of that is available. I've already filed my third quarter disclosures. I think there are a couple other quarters as well that I have financial disclosures on record that are accessible. And I'm happy to tell anybody that has a question and reveal that information. As far as this local race goes, again, we're not spending tens of thousands of dollars. I'd like to hope that all four of us, have our integrity about us and are not interested in, working for people for nominal amounts of money, or for any amount of money for that matter. So I know these guys, I've talked to them. I think we all have integrity, but I am willing to and will disclose any kind of financial contributions or donors that anybody's interested in.
Okay, Brandon Bell, what about your financial disclosures?
My Q3 disclosure, I brought it tonight for my treasurer to sign, who's out in the crowd, and I'm proud to say that my money's everything but, we're reporting $1,300 collected and spent, and all but $100 has come from my neighborhood, from citizens in my neighborhood that have really wanted me to run. So I've gotten a great support from my community, and I'm very proud of that. And the other $100 came from a college buddy of mine who just wanted to help me out, which was really cool. But other than that, that really it's available. I'll be happy to give it to anybody. We actually have it here tonight if they would like to see it after this forum.
All right, let's get to the issues. Mr. Shepard, how does land preservation factor into your approach to decisions pertaining to development? What are specific ways or policies you would support to balance those two?
Again, I would listen to the people first and foremost in terms of where there's development and where there's not development. If land has already been set aside and it's permanently going to be a park or something like that, it would stay that way. I wouldn't even attempt to change it. But where the new development happens in this town, that's probably the #1 issue why I'm running. I think we need to do a better job managing growth and managing development. And we need to listen to the people and do what they want, not what out-of-town developers want. And we really need to pay attention to the people closest to where that development is going to take place. And if we listen to the people and give them what they want, we'll have a better town for it. We'll be better off. But if we listen to the out-of-town developers and just do whatever they say, and then grant exceptions, whatever they ask to our codes, and just build things, and especially when it's being done on the, like, kind of in secret, and you don't even, the people affected by it aren't even aware it's coming until it's too late, we can do better. And if I'm elected, I will do everything I can to do better, to listen to the people in terms of growth, development, whether that means preserving green space, creating more green space, developing or not developing. It's going to be listening to the people. It's going to be my approach.
All right, Mike Roberts, development and preservation. How do you balance those, and what specific policies will you use to do so?
It's a challenging issue. Development, growth is inevitable for our area. But what I believe is we don't have to be anxious about it. We don't have to quickly develop our area. We have plenty of time. The opportunity is in our court and not in the developer's court. So to me, we should back up and make it more restrictive, more both in commercial and residential. We need to look at our codes. We made many mistakes because the developers had the upper hand on us in developing these first subdivisions. That's their trade or business. We were, the city planners just didn't have the experience to deal with that. Today we've got good codes. They've developed great codes so far, but we need to probably go out and find other communities that are doing a better job than us and double the complexity of our code. Restrict access. For example, we don't need fast food in Thompson Station. We need more family orders like Circa or what Homestead Manor did. We need the right growth within the area. We don't need subdivisions everywhere. And one of the big challenges for us, I don't know where my time is, the big challenge is that we need to think about when that growth puts us over certain thresholds. For example, at some point we have to have police and fire. Well, that's an expensive undertaking. Well, we may want to slow it down and not get there too quick because we can't support fire and police today.
All right, thank you very much. And Court Bethman, could you tell us about preservation and development?
Sure. The reason we moved to Thompson Station is because what we have down here. There's lots of other areas where we can find a cheaper house. We can find a different type of environment. But we moved to Thompson Station because of what we had down here as far as the rural feel. But it's accessible to many of the amenities that we all want and need as far as restaurants, shopping, and those types of things. What I'd like to see is we continue to preserve the areas that we can preserve. I like the idea of preserving the historic battlefields and areas where there's such history in this area that as Franklin's finding out now, it gets much more expensive as the growth surrounds it. So I think it's a good idea that we can take advantage of those when we have the opportunity to. But I also think we have to balance that with having more than just one or two restaurants in the town. I think that we don't want I don't want, and the people that I've talked to don't want a bunch of fast food restaurants, and I agree with that. But I think we'd like to have a selection of some nice restaurants that people from Franklin come down here and spend their tax dollars. People from Spring Hill come up here and spend their tax dollars on our nice boutique, special, different, high-end, middle-end types of restaurants and shopping and boutique malls.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brandon Bell, what specific ways or policies would you use to balance development and preservation?
I'm a firm believer in the power of zoning ordinances, maps, and overlays. The zoning maps are created, I work with them on a daily basis in zoning codes, and they're created by the public. You know, this town incorporated for a reason to protect itself from different kinds of growth that they don't want to have. We have unique growth to our south and unique growth to our north. The general public, this town came together and put together a plan, said this is really what we want, and it reflected our ideas, the town's ideas. Those things, that map kind of explains what we want the town to be, and it doesn't allow, it tells the developer what we are. We don't allow developers to come in and tell us what we need to be. So that thing, the zoning maps can be changed, and they can define the character, and they can preserve what we have, which is this beautiful town center. This is, towns, Berry Farms, all these new developments are emulating what we have right here. We have something spectacular, and we can play off this. This can be something really special for town. And so as we go forward, as we grow, it involves the public. It involves us sitting down, having work sessions, and we say, is this the way we want to do this? Is this the right zoning? Is this where we want the commercial? Is this where we want our boutique shops, our boutique restaurants, our senior living places? That can be done. Everybody can have input, and we can get behind it and support it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go right on the heels of that with a question from a citizen. Millie Alverson asked, and I'm going to start with Brandon here. Do you feel that developers should pay their way for the privilege of developing in Thompson Station? If so, how will you ensure that development pays for itself?
I believe developers do need to pay various fees, which are typical across the country. Impact fees, there are various fees as you begin to do business or to develop in a neighborhood. I don't think there's any reason not to ask them to tote the note on that. It's a pretty standard thing. I believe that it doesn't, if we were to drop that, if we were to provide incentives to try to grow faster, I don't think that's the answer. I don't think we need to give away dollars that the town needs to build this infrastructure to provide services to these new developments up front. I think that if they're willing to come to such a hotbed of growth and beauty and great public schools, great transportation on 840, that they can pay what's necessary, what's reasonable to do business in town. Thank you.
All right, Court Bethman, explain your stance on development paying for itself and how to make sure that happens, if you believe that.
Sure. I do. I do think that as developers move in here, they're moving into our neighborhoods, and we want them to be footing the bill for that and becoming part of the neighborhood. It's not an us versus them kind of proposition. When people want to come in here and develop, I think it should be a tag team thing where we're working together with them to make sure that what they present to us as BOMA will be, or as the design review committee will be, or as the planning commission is, that we're working with them to make sure that what they propose is what actually takes place on the ground, that it's something that matches the character of Thompson Station, and I think that that's what we need to be doing. And I also think that we need to be tapping more of the potential that we have in our town. We have so many talented people, and we have such small groups that make these decisions. We need to get more people involved that have the talents and the abilities to help us make those decisions, that can review documents and make decisions that protect the town. So the answer to the question is definitely yes, but also I want to make sure that we're getting more people involved in taking care of our town.
Okay, Mike Roberts, how do you feel about the need for development fees and development paying for itself?
I think we can't allow the outcomes of the past to be repeated. The developers have taken advantage of us from my perspective. They've left us with burdens that affect every one of us as citizens. We can't allow that to happen going forward. They need to carry their weight, okay? There are some things that we need to do. We as a town need to look at access roads and how we can get those to where they're safer for everywhere. everybody, you know, Kreitz Lane or Pantal or Thompson Station Road itself. They're dangerous roads. We need to invest in those. We shouldn't expect a developer to take care of that all the time. But within that community, they have to tote the note. We can't have them taking green space or making it unusable because it worked in their favor to have that topsoil. We can't have them burdening us with the sewer and water treatment plant, and we sure as heck can't have them taking advantage of our citizens, our residents, with a monopoly on utilities. We have to make them more accountable, period. I'll stop.
Okay, Grant Shepherd.
So I think developers need to pay their fair share, but I think if it's quality development, I'm not against development, so I'm for quality development. And to get quality development, you can't overcharge the developer, because that development that they're proposing, if it's true quality that the people want, you can't overcharge them or they'll go somewhere else. But they do need to pay their fair share, the customary fees that neighboring cities charge. You just can't overcharge them. My thing is, it needs to be quality development. And the example I heard out on the campaign trail, I really hope it's not true, but I heard out in Bridgemore, which is a subdivision, maybe the nicest subdivision in all of Thompson Station, maybe. I don't live there, but it is nice, I've been out there. The houses are basically on half-acre lots, and they are maybe 4,000 square feet. That's what's out there. And I heard a rumor that, oh, the next phase, the developer's going to say, oh, let's do smaller houses on quarter-acre lots. That's not right. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't allow it if that's true. Let's keep the quality up. Let's get quality development. Let's not overcharge the developers, and let's just make sure they pay their fair share compared to other cities and neighboring places where they have the option to go.
I believe Mr. Roberts has some comment on that.
Well, and I'm not taking away from what Grant said. Other things I think we need to do, though, is better planning, better long-range strategic planning, traffic patterns, studies, looking at what's happening, and looking at the impact, as I was talking about earlier. If we get to a certain size, we have to invest more in the infrastructure than we have today. And again, that's not their problem, that's our problem, but we need to be aware that it's coming.
Okay, back to Brandon Bell. Several touched on this issue, but I'll hone in on it. What is your strategic plan for resolving the town's sewer issues?
It's a good question. The sewer issue is a very complicated one that's kind of plagued the town for a while, and I had to get educated on it before I bought a home in Tollgate, which is on the sewer system. I'm not on septic, I'm on the sewer. So it's an issue that's important to me. But I think the solution is going to be, first of all, really looking for outside ideas. You know, there's a certain amount of people, I think, in the room or that are on BOMA or that could become BOMA reps that maybe would have ideas, but this issue is very complicated and it involves expert consultation. I feel that there are some people on staff that, you know, we have a great town administrator that has some ideas. I really feel that to have a plan for the long term, it needs to be really vetted out through an outside source. I think there's ideas for unique, sustainable solutions. You know, many states, well not many, but Florida and Arizona, for instance, has reclaimed water lines that they use to irrigate certain areas. I mean, maybe there's some unique solutions that are both a green initiative and it would be beneficial and good for the town.
All right, thank you. Court Bethman, do you have any strategic plan for resolving the sewer issues?
Yes, I think there's really two issues at play here when we start talking about sewer. And one is we have what we already have on the table, where the three neighborhoods are dealing with this system that was set up, the Schaefer system that was set up. And there are some issues that have been resolved, there's some issues that are still outstanding, and I think there's some issues that we really don't know what the impact's going to be on what we have. And then for the second issue is what do we do going forward? What are the other plans that we could bring to the table? About a week ago, I met with Joe, our town administrator, and asked him, Joe, tell me about the sewer system. What do you know? Are you caught up to speed on this? And he said, Court, I'm 100% up to speed on this. And so we shared about 15 minutes going over what the system is in place, how we've got lines in the ground for the drip fields, what that means on capacity. We are okay on capacity in the short term, but moving forward, we have to do some things to make sure that we can handle the sewer system. It's a great asset for our town. It should be a moneymaker, and we should be making money on that, not spending money on that. So that's some of the things that I think we need to do with the town. And then into the future, we need to make sure that we don't get into this mess again. We don't have the budget to be going back and spending millions of dollars to fix problems. So we need to get it right on the front end. We need to engage experts on the front end so that we don't have this problem in the future.
Okay, Mike Roberts, what is your strategic plan for resolving the sewer issues?
I may have too much information about that. The first thing I did was gather information to try to understand how it all works. Number one, we as residents need to realize we can't dilute our effluent. We don't have any running water to get rid of it, so we're destined to use drip fields hereafter. We just need to learn how to deal with it and how can we reduce cost. I contacted somebody I know in North Mississippi that operates plants similar to the Schaefer system. And they're able to operate that thing for significantly less than what we're spending. So number one, we need to get in there and figure out why we're spending $1 million a year to operate. Doesn't make any sense when they're operating for less. As an example, they're taking 200,000 gallons of sewer water a day from a neighboring community and paying getting 65,000 for it. So he's able to handle 200,000 gallons a day of somebody else's sewer for $65,000 a year and make money on it. We're not even handling 200,000 gallons a day, I don't think. One of our other challenges is we've already committed our taps to the developers that are already out there. We need more capacity as we bring on new subdivisions. Now, some people have talked about a sewer treatment plant in every subdivision. I'm opposed to that. I think we need to centralize it, maybe regionalize it, but we need to figure out first how to run it more efficiently, and then second, accept the fact that it's going to be expensive. It's just part of life in Williamson County.
Graham Shepherd, what's your strategic plan to resolve sewer issues?
I'm about to make a political gaffe here, and that's telling the truth. I don't have a strategic plan for the sewer system. What I do have is I have looked at both the mayoral candidates' plans for the sewer system. I don't have a better one, but I think Corey Napier's plan is the superior one. And that's one of the reasons I'm supporting him. And that plan, basically the approach is we're not going to try to develop our way. We're not going to accelerate residential and commercial development and hope to get a bunch of fees and then solve these sewer problems with money. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think the better approach is Corey's approach. I don't have a better plan of my own. I've read his plan. I can quibble with Roger Nixon about some of the details in it at the Dog and Pony Show, but on balance, it's the superior plan, and I'm willing to accept it.
Okay, well, speaking of the need for money, Mr. Shepherd, does Thompson Station need more commercial, retail, and residential development? And what policies are needed to attract businesses and tax revenue to grow and sustain Thompson Station?
We're going to grow. I think everyone's for growing, but again, what kind of growth and how fast? If you think the pace of development currently is too slow, then you have a clear choice in the mayor race. Someone wants to accelerate the pace, and someone wants to keep it about the same, not stop it, keep it about the same, or slow it down a bit.
Well, how about Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
How about Mr. Shepherd in the alderman race?
I say the pace of development is a little too fast. We need to be a little more selective. Like Mike said earlier, we have the time, we can choose. We need to get quality commercial development, quality residential development, not multi-story apartment complexes, not strip malls, and strip malls with who knows what's going to go inside them. It's risky. It's not going to be good for the long-term health of the town. We need to be more selective. But yes, we need more commercial development. We need more residential development, but it needs to be higher quality than what we've been allowing lately. That'll give the town a better brand name all across the country. Hopefully people will know us, we'll stand out, and we'll be different. We won't be Spring Hill. Not that there's anything wrong with Spring Hill. A lot of people want to live there.
Right. Thank you very much. Mr. Roberts, do you think that there is a need for more commercial, retail, and residential development and the tax revenue to sustain Thompson Station?
For us to be able to deal with the roads that I talked about earlier, it's going to take a lot of dollars, and those are expensive dollars. We've spent a lot of time waiting on the state to fix some of the state roads. We're going to have to fix those roads if we want to get them done now, and that's going to take our money. Okay? So yes, we need more revenue if we could get it. But just because we have something here doesn't mean people are going to shop there. Take Kroger, for example. Does everybody go to Kroger, nobody go to Publix? Doesn't happen, so we need a right development, such as a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's or a Fresh Market, a good anchor tenant that will also bring in similar other strip center tenants that will work along with us in building our sales tax base. Sales tax is what we make over $1 million or $500,000 in sales tax. It's very profitable for the city in relation to the cost that we spend. We need more commercial development. I think we're in a unique position because we're south of Berry Farms that we really can offer both Thompson Station, Spring Hill, and Berry Farms to these prospective tenants.
All right, thank you very much. Court Bethman.
Yes, we do need more development. We need planned development, and we do need quality development. That's things that we've heard from these other two candidates. The key to this is, how do you get that? Sitting up here in our community center office and in our room is not how we get good quality development. We have to have relationships with the people that can make that happen. There are only so many people that can come in and start a restaurant. Not all of us do that. And if we don't have relationships with the people that can come in and start a good quality restaurant, like the gentleman from Puckett's coming down here, they're not going to come. Who's going to come are the people that are regional players, they're national players, and they want to put in strip malls, which is not what we want. So we have to have a strong economic development committee that's willing to go out and build relationships with developers who are willing to come down here and join us in Thompson Station. And I think that's exactly what we need. We need, like I said earlier, to tap the people in our community that can do that. And I know there are several people in our community that have relationships with developers. They have relationships with people who can run novelty retail stores. And that's what we need to have down here, is people that can do those types of things. One more thing, if I have a little bit extra time. Wow.
Not yet.
Okay. The second part of that question was taxes. And I agree that, yes, to sustain a town, you have to have revenue to do that. And in our current situation, I think we're struggling. I think we can add more to that so that we have additional tax revenue coming in to make our roads and our infrastructure stronger.
Thank you. Brandon Bell, what about development? Is it needed to sustain the city as it is?
Commercial development, which is where I thought this was going.
Yes.
Commercial development, we said, there's the want and the need. There's folks, I know in my neighborhood, that are looking for that little taco shop at the front of Tollgate. There are people that would like to have a pharmacy closer than a CVS or a Walgreens where we have to go now. There is a need or a want for that. The need is those tax dollars are important. They will help us as we grow and help fund a lot of this growth. But I really believe that if we were to, we should go attract those specific people. Let's get a champion on the economic steering committee, economic development committee, and create let's get something put together, a marketing plan, a marketing brochure. I mean, I mean, there's people that I see that I interface with that are from other parts of the state, and I say, hey, have you heard about what's available in Thompson Station? You know, we can tap, as Court and some other folks have said, there's people in the community that have connections, that have relationships that we can utilize, but let's sell what we have and go after what we want to come to this town in terms of commercial.
All right, thank you very much. We got a couple of very similar questions. I'll ask one that was submitted by Willis Gilliam. And we'll start with Brandon Bell. Do you feel that what's right for a section of town where you live, a subdivision or a rural area, should apply to all, or can you represent everyone, knowing that some people with property on Columbia Highway, zone commercial, want to see some growth, retail, etc., as it only adds to the value of their property?
It's a good question, Mr. Gillis. I appreciate that. There he is, back there. To answer your question, no. One thing for one area of town may not be the right thing for another area of town. Again, you know, I live in a densely populated development, a planned development, and what's appropriate there is not appropriate across the street or down Thompson Station Road. You know, for example, there was something that came to Bone not long ago about a noise ordinance that, you know, folks in the agricultural community, that really doesn't apply. That's not an issue for that part of town with with growth not attractive or not happening there. But in a neighborhood like me, where I live literally, you know, 8 feet from my neighbor, something like that may be an issue, and it needs to be tailored. If we were to try to, you know, pass amendments and stuff like that, it needs to be clearly stated that those things apply to specific parts of town, densities of 30 units an acre or more. So I understand that there's different areas of town that have unique needs, and I think we need to protect and think about how those places are affected as we go about growing. Thank you.
All right, Court Bethman. The other way that this same question was asked was, how do you plan to represent the entire town, subdivisions, rural, east and west? That's a really boiled down version of a similar question.
Sure. And I think I almost answered this question, the very first question, which was, you know, as a fiduciary, you have a duty to represent your clients. As a member of BOMA, we have a duty to represent everybody in this town. I live in Canterbury. I don't represent Canterbury if I'm elected to the BOMA. I represent the town of Thompson Station. And so it is a balance between what's east and west Thompson Station, what's in the middle of Thompson Station, what's on Columbia Highway. You have to balance all of that. And I think I can do that because I do it on a daily basis in balancing things. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, you know, as an American, property values and the right to own property and do what you want to with property is very important to us as a country. And so I think, you know, in balancing the interest, you still have to recognize that people own property here in Thompson Station. And if things come available to them that are compliant and work with what we've got going on in Thompson Station, they have a right to use their property how they want to. And we put parameters around that, and in Thompson Station they're really loose parameters, and I'm okay with that, that property owners can do what they want to with their property.
All right, Mike Roberts, how do you balance this community that's becoming very diverse?
Well, the first thing is it's all about Thompson Station, folks. We all win when we work together. When we balance what the subdivision needs have with the rural. I'm out in the rural area. I've got 35 acres out in Thompson Station, and it really doesn't matter whether you're in a subdivision or you're out there. We have different needs, as the other guys have mentioned, but we're all in this thing together. We all have to care about each other. I'm not looking forward to the day when we have wards when they're going to elect somebody to represent them in the subdivision. We're going to elect somebody out in the rural area. I hate the thought of that happening, because it's all about us, and that's all that matters is we cooperate and work together. And we need to build that spirit today to where when we do get to wards, that we work that way. It should never be about representing like the federal system where we're representing our people. Well, we got to do the job first. We got to represent everybody first.
All right, Graham Shepherd, how do you balance the needs of the various types of lifestyles in Thompson Station?
Well, first of all, let me just say property owners cannot do whatever they want with their property. I don't believe they can put an adult entertainment establishment in front of Tollgate Village. I don't believe you can raise farm animals in my house, in my backyard. So there are limits on what property owners can and cannot do. As long as the limits are reasonable, I'm okay with that. And there's a phrase, I guess it's a biblical, to do unto others. I think you're familiar with it. So I would never build something in somebody else's neighborhood that I wouldn't build in my own, unless the people in that neighborhood wanted it. And if the people in that neighborhood want that development, even though I personally don't think it's a good idea, we'll go with that. We'll allow that development to take place. So you just listen to the people, give them what they want. Don't let people harm their neighbors due to some property right that they can do whatever they want with it. Let's cooperate with each other. Let's all get along. I think that's the Rodney King slogan. And let's be good neighbors to each other. And let's not hurt our neighbors and profit. Let's not have somebody profit and then hurt their neighbors. That's not a good approach. That's not balanced.
Thank you very much. I'll give the mic right back to you with some very specific questions from Matthew Gary. I'm going to ask two of them because they're pretty short answer, probably, maybe not. Would you ever allow egress into Thompson Station Road from the Alexander property located in Spring Hill? And would you ever agree to an exit off 65 onto Thompson Station Road?
An exit off 65 onto Thompson Station Road. I believe that issue has been resolved. I thought the 65 interchange was moved out to Buckner. It's not?
Still under discussion.
Okay, my bias would be not to allow the 65 interchange, because I believe that would just add more traffic, more congestion, more quality of life issues to us. So I'd look at it, but I'll tell you right now, my bias is not to do that. I don't think I would oppose that. And what was the first part of the question? Alexander property?
Connector from the Alexander property in Spring Hill to Thompson Station Road.
I'd look at that. That one I'd have to look at. Again, if it's going to help the traffic flow, I'd be for it. If it's going to worsen the traffic congestion, I'd be against it. But I'd look at it. I really don't. I can't picture that in my mind how that would work. But in general, if it's going to create more traffic problems, more congestion, no, I would oppose it.
Mike Roberts, exit off 65 onto Thompson Station Road or connection from the Alexander property, or both?
I'll talk about the Alexander first. When I lived in Brentwood, Cool Springs Mall was just developing. And Brentwood talked about closing off Moore's Lane access for the mall. And I had a hard time getting my head around that. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. We've got to be neighbors. And yes, I realize that's going to put more traffic on Thompson Station Road East. We need to fix Thompson Station Road East where it can handle it. Am I interested in having an exit from 65 on Thompson Station Road East? No, I'm not. Because from what I hear from the residents, that's not what we support. And I'm going to support what we want. I think it would be convenient. I wish there was one on Sedberry where it'd be closer to me, but that doesn't make any sense. So might raise my property value. But the answer for Thompson Station Road and 65, I'm affirmatively no on. But on Alexander, I would say yes.
Okay, Court Bettman, those specific connections to Thompson Station Road.
To me, it's the same issue that we were talking about here, which is the traffic issue in Thompson Station. Where do we connect? What can we do? What can we not do to make traffic flow more easy, to have a better commute? Most people are heading north in the morning and south in the evening. But how can we improve that? And for both of these things, I don't have a clear yes or no.
You'll each have 2-minute opening and closing statements. And did we come up with a way to give those? I guess we'll just start with candidate Nina Cooper.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark and Spring Hill Homepage for sponsoring this event. I'm going to refer to my notes. I've been working all days and have not had a lot of time to commit much of this to memory. So here we go. When I moved to Thompson Station over 22 years ago, there was no State Route 840. There was no Schaefer system. There was no Kroger. Thompson Station Road and Highway 31 was a flashing yellow light. The Baptist Church was one room, and we had about 700 residents. We loved rural Thompson Station, but we moved here expecting growth. Canterbury, Bridgemore, Tollgate, 840 were all in the works back then. I decided at that time to get involved because I wanted to help shape the future of our community. We've now grown and we have over 2,600 residents, and embedded in this growth are some significant challenges. Crystal clear, the sewer ponds, traffic gridlock, these are all issues that must be resolved. I'm running for mayor because if we're going to be self-sustaining and remain on the map and not be assimilated by our neighbors to the south, then further commercial growth is inevitable and it's necessary. I want to work with our citizens to improve our processes and our plans so that together we can decide how that growth happens, how it contributes to our community, and how we retain the rural character that everybody loves. As you know, the current mayor clearly promotes no-growth policies. This head-in-the-sand attitude will be disastrous to us in the future. No growth will not sustain our quality of life, and it will not sustain our fiscal health, and it certainly won't help us to become a stronger community. Instead, it's a plan for future failure because it does not allow us to solve our problems. I also recognize that there's great value in preserving our heritage. Never before have we included historic preservation in our land use comprehensive plan. We're a community with a wealth of history, and we must not let that heritage slip between the cracks. It's time that historic preservation meets up with economic development in our community. We must plan for the future while honoring the past. We must have a balanced approach to leadership and a commitment to looking at all sides of the issues. What we don't need is a leader with a personal agenda and an outdated no-growth approach that won't work.
Thank you. Coordinate your opening statement, please.
Sure. Thank you again for hosting this evening. It's great to see the turnout in the room. This is awesome. It's great to be with my neighbors so we can put a fine point on some of the issues that are before us as a community. Interesting background and history that Nina just shared on our town. A lot of it is factual. But I would ask the audience as we talk tonight and have a discussion that we think about why we chose to live in Thompson Station. What are the reasons that each one of you, why have you made the decision to live here? Some of you lived here your whole life. Some of you have moved here in the last few years, but I saw a lot of hands come up in the audience that are over 10 years. And I think what we do is we share a lot of the same values, and we're choosing to live in a place that stands for something. And that is a brand that we've been working on since 1990 when we incorporated. And we continue to fight day in and day out on big issues and small issues to preserve this wonderful community and to build it into a world-class community. I'm running for mayor because I want to see that vision and that effort and investment by all of us in this room carry over. Yes, we're going to have growth. Matter of fact, we're in the epicenter of growth. There's unbridled growth going on all around us. And you can look at the models to the north and to the south of Thompson Station, Spring Hill and Franklin. Both have bragging rights on a lot of things. Spring Hill is the fastest growing town in Tennessee, or the 14th fastest growing. Franklin to the north is one of the best small towns in America to live in. But I'll tell you what, they're both struggling with their growth. Their tax rates are higher than ours by quite a bit. And I prefer the tortoise approach to growth and understanding the risk and the return before we open the floodgates. Because we're a green oasis in a chaotic world. And I think we're choosing to live here because of the values we're representing.
Thank you very much. Let's get right to the issues with a question about growth, of course. Most of them tend to be that way. Nina Cooper, can you explain the reasoning behind your respective votes on suspending development indefinitely until the town's sewer pond issues are addressed?
Yes, absolutely, Mark, and please call me Nina. You have to call me Nina Cooper every time. Okay, the sewer pond issues, suspending growth, yeah, I see it as detrimental. The sewer pond issues could have been paid for through sewer tap fees. At that time, when we made that decision, there was enough new development that wanted to come on into Thompson Station to generate over $750,000 in sewer tap fees. Instead, we decided to go down a path to borrow money, and now today, for the first time, Thompson Station is in debt for over $1 million in debt, when we could have done it a different way. We could have grown smartly, we could have taken on new development, we could have made sure that development was right and fit the character of Thompson Station, and we could have made sure that we paid for it through tap generating fees instead of borrowing money.
Yes, the sewer is a large, complex issue. We talked about that a little bit earlier with the Alderman. I think the fine point to put on this particular issue is that the town was in a position of not only borrowing money in the last few years, but borrowing money from itself to fix a developer private system that was brought to our town without a lot of consideration for the risk and expense that the town was signing up for. And so, when we look at what we're saddled with now, yeah, everybody that is on the wastewater system, of which there's approximately 750 or 800 folks, each of you is now theoretically responsible for about $1,000 in that debt. You know what? We're going to have to spend another couple $1 million to truly fix it, and we still have a leak in Pond 1. And so it's convenient to also forget that we went through a recession when we were selling no homes in Thompson Station. Some years we had 4, 5, 6 homes for sale in the recession. Now we're approaching 200 this year. So I would argue that a sea of rooftops is not our answer to fixing our sewer problem.
I just want to add to that, Mark, by saying I'm not looking for a sea of rooftops either, but we've had absolutely no growth under this mayor's tenure, commercial and just limited residential growth. And at the height of the market, he imposed a moratorium on growth. That sends a negative message out to the development community. That says Thompson Station doesn't want to grow. And Thompson Station needs to grow in order to pay our bills.
Yeah, am I allowed to rebut that?
Yes, you have 30 seconds.
All right. First, we've never had a moratorium. There was never a moratorium on sewer. So that is an incorrect statement. It's a false statement.
Well, excuse me, but that's not my statement. That was your statement that you told somebody. I know we've never had a moratorium on growth. TDOT never put a moratorium on growth. Absolutely not. You know, what I was saying is that that's what this mayor did.
Lost track of the 30 seconds here. So let's move on to financial disclosures that are due. Who are your largest contributors, Nina?
My disclosure will be available for everyone to see. If you want to know who my largest contributors are, you'll have to ask my treasurer. I've not been keeping track of that. It's not important to me. What's important to me and what's important to know about the money that we've raised, and I'll be open about it. We've raised close to $13,000, and what that says to me is there's a lot of people in the community that want to see a change in the way the Thompson Station is led. They want new leadership.
Okay, Courtney, how about you? Who are your largest contributors?
My largest contributors are my fellow neighbors. My treasurer's report will be available tomorrow, my third quarter report, and I'll be proud to share with everybody that the preponderance of my donors actually live in Thompson Station. And they're usually small check donations.
Okay, so no large donors.
It depends on your definition of large. As far as I know, the largest donation has been $500.
Okay. What do you propose, starting with Corey Napier, what do you propose to ensure that homes and businesses in Thompson Station have broadband internet connections?
Well, first, again, we have to go back to the privately brought broadband internet solution that was brought to these subdivisions. Again, that was developer driven and is still developer controlled in most respects. So I think we need to also understand that Comcast, AT&T, and other telecommunication providers are in our town. For them, it's an economic decision about whether or not they go into these subdivisions. And frankly, the monopolistic behavior of Crystal Clear that has been serving these subdivisions and predates my election to the board has been hugely problematic. And as we've added folks to this community, and as they've signed up for internet services, we've had to develop workarounds. More competition is what we need. That service agreement with that provider is up next year. I fully intend to go out to an RFP and solicit new providers for these subdivisions so that they get the service they need.
Anthony Cooper, what do you propose to ensure homes and businesses in Thompson Station have broadband internet connections?
Well, Mark, it's a need that needs to be addressed. Crystal Clear is a problem in 3 of our communities, and I initiated the task force to help resolve some of these issues. The task force that you heard some of the alderman candidates speak of, and I would say that they're doing a great job. And they are going to report to the board in October with their findings. And if those findings say that Thompson Station does not need to renew their franchise agreement with Crystal Clear, then I'll support those findings.
Okay, well, let's go back to you again. Do you think the mayoral office should be full-time instead of town administrator?
I think at this point, it's fine the way that it is. We've always been that the mayor position has always been a volunteer position. It doesn't need to be full-time, although probably we do spend a lot of hours volunteering. I know I do. I've spent a lot of hours being an alderman. It's a lot of time that we commit, and it's all public service. It's all community service. We get a small stipend for our meetings, and that's about it. You know, at this time, I need to study it a little bit more and say, well, I don't know, does it need to be full-time? If it's full-time, then maybe we need to get paid for that. And so if we need to get paid for that, do we need to add that to our budget right now? I don't know, it all needs to be thought of and studied.
But you, Corey Napier, do you believe that the mayor's position should be full-time?
Absolutely not. We have a competent staff. We have a great new town administrator that's an excellent manager and brings the skill set we need to run the town. I look at the mayor's role as being an advocate for our community and being a champion for protecting our community. And I think that the beauty of our town is that we're a volunteer community. And I think that clearly aligns those of us that run for office and should align with those of us that hold office with those of our fellow citizens to know that we are not getting paid for this and that we're giving back to the community. And so, insofar as do we need a full-time person? Absolutely not. I estimate I probably spend 10 to 15 hours a week on town matters, and that cuts into my family time, and it will for anybody that serves. That's just the reality of it. But I think that's an investment we're making in our community.
All right. Nina, can you talk about your stance on the town's need for more commercial development, like shelter, Mars, more retail development, more residential development? Do you believe that those should be encouraged, delayed, or full on?
I believe that Thompson Station absolutely needs more commercial development. It's the commercial development and the commercial retailers that bring our tax bases up. Right now, we're living on taxes that we generate from Kroger and all of the businesses out at Heritage Common. We get about $750,000 a year from those businesses, and it's not enough to support our infrastructure needs. We need to make road repairs. We need to widen 31. There's a lot of needs that we have. We have great plans for our parks and trailway systems, and guess what? That takes money. Without commercial growth, we're never going to realize those dreams. Mars, fantastic. Shelter, fantastic. These are corporate headquarters, but we don't get any tax dollars from these corporate headquarters being in our community. We get the benefit of them being great neighbors to us, but that's about it. And they do donate money to our parks, but they don't give us, they won't build our tax revenues, and we need tax revenues in order to move forward and pay our bills. It's crucial.
All right, Courtney, what about the kinds of development, commercial, retail?
Yeah.
Residential.
All right, I guess I should back up and defend myself with that. Being the no-growth mayor and all, $110 million investment by Mars, $5 million plus investment by Shelter.
You did not bring Mars here.
We've got,
I've never
your as time.
Yeah. That's so back. Am I allowed to speak?
Yes.
Thank you. So we have Heath Clark's distillery next door. We have the folks at Greystone and Keckrans that are making an investment in our community with a really neat event center. We have the Homestead News. We have a lot of independent businesses and unique businesses that are choosing to set up shop here. All that generates sales tax revenue. And oh, by the way, my family and my wife in particular have made a huge investment with the restaurant next door. We do have some good places here. And I would say, I have to give credit to Nina. Nina has already articulated that Panera and Chick-fil-A are the kind of growth that we need. I would argue that we don't. You can find those options a couple miles to the north, a couple miles to the south. East Spring Hill has over 30 eating establishments within a minute and a mile and a half of our community. You know what it takes to get a Chick-fil-A? 3 hamburger joints, then a Chick-fil-A. Oh, and it comes with neon. And some of these other things that we don't really desire as a community. And by the way, it also takes 20,000 drive-bys and 20,000 rooftops. So there's an economic model for you. I don't think that's being embraced or overly desired by our community.
Can I rebut that?
Yes.
Okay, Chick-fil-A is not neon, by the way. They do backlighting. That is not neon, okay? And Chick-fil-A was used by me as an example of what people want. It's not what I want, okay? But when you take your kids and you pick them up after a ball game on a Saturday afternoon, you're not going to Circa for lunch, okay? We need places like Chick-fil-A and Panera, if that's what the people want, to have lunch. There's no place to eat in Thompson Station besides these places. These are all great venues, I agree, and we need them, but we need more everyday places.
Okay, let's move on. Courtney, do you perceive the town's tax base as an issue? How does it affect the quality of life? And could you first tell us the current property tax rate for $100 of assessed value?
Property tax rate, 10.3 cents per assessment. 100. Spring Hill is at 60, almost 60, and Franklin's at 40. So that puts it in perspective from a property tax standpoint. I think Nina was a little off base with some of the sales tax revenue numbers because that's more like $500,000. Most of that which comes out of Kroger and the restaurant and some of these other independent retailers and shops in and around Heritage. So that's what's before us as a community. We've run balanced budgets. We have $2.7 million in the bank. And we've done so by being, I think, very good fiscal stewards of the money that we are bringing in. Our roads cost about $500,000 to fix every year, give or take. We don't have to spend that every year. And we have found ways to manage our budget and honor our obligations. And things like the State Route 840 or 31 and some of those interchanges and some of the investments that Nina has mentioned, those are largely taken care of by the state. And we're relying on that. So from an economic model standpoint, I believe if you have a great town brand that stands for something, people want to be in your town. They're going to pay to come in. They're going to pay the impact fees. They're going to pay the design. They're going to have the higher design. Quality begets quality. I believe that's what our town economic model is largely based on.
All right, thank you. Nina Cooper, do you perceive the town's tax base as an issue? And how does it affect the quality of life? Is the town's tax rate sufficient?
Well, I mean, the mayor stated the numbers. He knows the numbers. It's true. I mean, you can't argue with the numbers. But here's the thing, is, we're having to borrow money. If everything's all hunky-dory, why are we borrowing money? We have $160,000 in debt service that we have to pay annually to pay off this $1 million that we borrowed.
All right, thank you.
Am I allowed to respond to that?
Yeah, if you guys would like to rebut, just raise a finger.
We borrowed the money because we could, because we had so much cash in the bank. And that allowed us, we were opportunistic. We found very cheap financing rates and allowed us to acquire 100 acres. Did we have to borrow money to buy that 100 acres for the new Central Park? No, we didn't, but we did because we could lock in 10-year money at a rate that is equivalent to borrowing at a AA rating. That's pretty strong. And so the other borrowings are all related to the wastewater system, which has cost us over $1 million to fix.
Well, I mean, the way that we run our household, if we have money in the bank, we don't borrow it.
All right. All right, Nita Cooper, how long have you lived in Thompson Station? And in that time, how many elections have you voted in?
I've lived in Thompson Station over 22 years, and I have voted in many, many elections. I won't say every election, I've missed one or two, but many of them.
Thank you. Corey Napier.
Similar comments to Nina's. I've been here 16 years, and I've voted in the preponderance of them. Certainly only a local election in recent memory.
Okay, starting with you, what county-provided services should the town take over, if any?
Is that directed at me?
Yes.
County what? County services?
County-provided services.
You know, one of the nice things about Thompson Station is, and I get this question a lot, has been, what will the town do for me? Trash service, telecommunications, all these different things. As far as county services that we need to take over, that's a good working relationship with the county, and the sheriff's department has been helpful with litter and trash pickup, things of that sort. We probably can take that over. As our staff grows, we're looking at how we reallocate our staff because we now have a larger park system. You know, can we outsource certain of our services? There's no reason that we have to be in the grass cutting business in our park. There's farmers that would love to take the hay off the field. So you have to be creative. You have to collaborate with others. The county fire system, we're very fortunate. The county is going to locate a regional rescue squad just there at Goose Creek. That's great fire protection and keeps us out of the fire business. We've also been able to enter into a sheriff's agreement to basically outsource policing so we don't get into the police business. I think that's being smart with our money.
All right, Nita Cooper, what county-provided services should the town take over?
I think at this point, we're doing great, and we don't need to take over any services. As we grow, we may need to consider increasing police presence in town, but right now, that's not an issue.
And back to you, Nina. Do you think Thompson Station should establish a partnership with the city of Spring Hill and appealing to TDOT to widen or do other work on Highway 31? What do you and your state senator and state representative tell you to do? And how can the town work toward resolving traffic flow issues, particularly on Highway 31?
Okay, there's a couple of different parts to that question. But yeah, absolutely. We need to work with Spring Hill, Franklin, the county, anybody we can to help resolve these traffic issues. The traffic issues on 31 are predominantly brought to us by our neighbors to the south as they commute to work. The traffic issues on 31 are not going to be resolved immediately unless we do something about it ourselves. And the way to get the 31 widened is by bringing in quality commercial developers to help us get the road widened. As they come in, we negotiate with these people and we say, look, you want to be in our community? That's fantastic, but help us widen this road. Thompson Station will come closer to widening 31 than Spring Hill or Franklin will, because starting next year, well, starting right now, the studies have already been done due to Mars and the economic incentives given to Mars by the state. 31 is going to be widened from 840 all the way south of Christ Lane. That's a huge step. That's going to be a 5-lane highway. If we work and we continue and we work with developers and allow them to come in our commercial corridor, we can get this thing done a lot faster than our neighbors to the south.
How about that question? Do I need to read it again?
I think I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Thompson Station doesn't exist to solve Spring Hill's problems, but I do believe we have to collaborate with them because we're in it together. It's regional collaboration. We've signed a regional corridor agreement, one of the first in the state, telling those in places of power and decision-making and funding that we in South Williamson County have a shared issue, that being traffic. And we have a lot of state and federal roads that are cruising through our town. And so we need their help. And we have to be creative and innovative as it relates to where we can spot fund things and afford it out of our own budget. Ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of the state roads are the state of Tennessee's responsibility. And that sounds like a cop-out, but the reality is that you work with them every day and you make your case for signalization of either end of Price Lane. You talk about safety, you talk about quality of life issues of sitting on 31. And so for us, I don't envision 31 as a neon gauntlet 5-lane road. I don't think we have to go there, especially if the interchange is indeed moved into Spring Hill, which I believe will happen because we signed that agreement with them and that understanding. We're moving that way. Look at Thompson Station as a boulder and a mountain stream, and the water goes around the boulder. Whether it's 840 or it's down I-65, it gets a lot of the traffic out of our town, negating the need to go through expensive road improvements. And we'll collaborate with the developers. I've always said growth needs to pay for itself. You drive a good bargain with the developers, you'll get some of the road improvements you need. You'll get the school sites, etc.
I would just like to add to that by saying that yes, we've been talking to Spring Hill about moving the interchange further south into Spring Hill, and I think maybe that makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is giving up all the economic dollars that come with an interchange. We need to really study that and see exactly what we're giving up to Spring Hill and work with Spring Hill to maybe keep one of those quadrants and keep the tax revenues from one of those quadrants. I don't envision Thompson Station, 31 and Thompson Station as a big neon boulevard. Absolutely not. Our comprehensive land plan and our zoning ordinances are not going to let that happen.
Coordinator, can you talk about your stance on term limits for board members, including the mayor?
My stance on term limits, I believe that more people should be involved in the community. And I've told everybody that's running for office, that's running for aldermanic office, that I really do appreciate them sticking their neck out and running and spending the time and effort to get involved in this community. Because I believe this is a volunteer citizen community where you do your part and then you move on. I'm asking for a second term. I think we have 4-term limits in Thompson Station. When I was reading our charter, our code, I'd have to go back to that. And so there's some built-in mechanisms. I don't believe in being a career politician. I think that breeds and inculcates a mindset that can be dangerous for any community. So we need fresh blood. Absolutely.
All right. Cooper, can you explain your stance on term limits for board members, including the mayor?
Absolutely. I think we should have term limits. I think we don't need career politicians, especially in a small town like Thompson Station. I think the terms should be limited to two terms, maximum.
Okay, I have some citizen questions. First one from Casey Beathard for Corey Napier. How can you explain appointing Daryl Stevens as alderman in the expanded alderman election to fill your empty seat when you clearly stated you would appoint the next highest vote receiving candidate in that election?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Maybe some folks should talk to Daryl, but at the end of the day, there was a vote before the town as it related to litigation related to our sewer system. In particular, a latent defect situation with our opportunity for the town to file a lawsuit to protect itself and to perhaps get some money back on this pig in a poke sewer system that was brought to us by private developers. That vote was made by executive session to proceed with the lawsuit. The day we were going to file the lawsuit, the other 2 aldermen, we were board of 3, decided they wanted to recall the session and revote the matter. When I had the opportunity as incoming mayor to make a call on that, I felt that Daryl was not somebody I could rely on to protect the interest of our town.
Well, I have a question from Barbara Negretto for Nina Cooper. One of Ms. Cooper's campaign commitments is to bring back committees that were dissolved at some point to encourage community input. Please explain why some committees have come and gone over the past few years. Well, there's more. You have made this commitment, yet it's my understanding you want to put rules around the community input portion of the BOA meetings, which is perceived as taking away the freedom of speech to our residents.
I'm not sure I understand that question. I'm not responsible for disbanding any committees in Thompson Station. The mayor has that authority. The mayor has the authority to put in place committees, and he has apparently an authority to disband them without letting anybody know that he's disbanded them. I think committees are important to communities. I think community involvement is important, and it keeps everything transparent.
How about the community input section of the meetings?
I think community input is great. We've had it now for some time. I don't oppose community input.
But limitations?
Limitations?
Yes.
As far as?
The question says there have been...
I've never imposed any limitations on community input. The mayor runs the board meetings, and he starts the input and he stops the input. That has nothing to do with me.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
that was probably a question meant for the mayor.
It says for Nina Cooper.
I'm the author, you read it wrong, I'm sorry, I'm happy to clarify this.
Please
That
do.
was not what
Please do.
Yeah, I'm Barbara Greta, and I wrote actually about 18 questions, because this is a very important time, I think, for that. But anyway, what the question was is, there had been some committees that had been dissolved, and in speaking with our mayor, he made clear that the purpose of those committees at the time had satisfied the requirement, and we blended in finance and
Public Works.
Public
Works.
into a board of mayor and advisory committee. And Ms. Cooper had never attended any of those meetings, and she seems very she's talked a lot about setting up committees, and I think some of us are exhausted from...
Excuse me, but I have attended several committees.
I was on that, and you were never at a meeting.
That's not true.
Is this,
Maybe you
is this
were-
the nature of this forum?
Well, I
She gets
clarify.
Can we move on?
Here's where I
Can we move on
stand.
with this, please, because this is...
Here's where I stand on committees. Committees are important because it provides for public input. Disbanding committees, in my opinion, is not a good thing. We need more community members to get involved, and how we do that is through committees. Public input is very important.
Let me touch on that since we did go to a combined committee, Mayor's Advisory Committee. And there had been a lot of good work, hard work done by Public Works on the sewer system. The finance group was also looking at that. Once they'd done their work, these really are ad hoc committees. They have no formal voting powers. They have advisory and council recommendations to make to our board. And the board takes the action, right? And so we combine them. And then our former town administrator, who apparently is now the campaign manager for Ms. Cooper.
No, he's not my campaign manager. Absolutely not.
Okay.
That is a lie.
Okay, it was in the paper, I'm sorry.
It was not in the paper.
He was,
Well, then it was a mistake.
You all want to have this debate, do it like adults. Please don't interrupt each other. The audience is not part of it. Thank you.
so I thought do I still have the floor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so our town administrator at that time didn't see fit to send out agendas and work prior to our meetings, and he was disrespectful of citizen time. And so I decided I wouldn't waste my fellow citizens' time on committees that were serving no practical or functional purpose in getting work done. And so, but I will go on record as saying I expanded the board from 3 to 5, and I took away some of our town some of my powers and gave them to the town administrator to run our town, because I believe, as Ms. Cooper I think also believes, that we need more citizen involvement and we need more accountability and oversight.
Okay,
Thanks.
Ms. Cooper, you got some comments?
No, I'm done.
All right. Great, let's move on to some very simple questions. We brought these questions up to the Alderman candidates, and I see they've been resubmitted for the mayors, and I will combine them once again. How do you feel, Ms. Cooper, about egress onto Thompson Station Road from the Alexander property? And would you ever agree to an exit off 65 onto Thompson Station Road?
Well, let me just clarify by saying TDOT is responsible for planning where those exit goes, okay? And before we started talking to Spring Hill, the exit right now, it still is planned by TDOT, not Thompson Station, at Thompson Station Road East, okay? That's where it's going unless we lobby and work to get it moved further south. I think it belongs further south. I said before that I believe it belongs further south, but we need to really look into and do an economic impact study and see how much revenues we're going to lose and then negotiate with Spring Hill to get some of those revenues back. No, absolutely not. What I want to see on the Alexander property as it develops is a huge buffer on Thompson Station Road to protect Thompson Station Road East. That's what I'd like to see. We already have one big cut-through road, and that's can't think of the name of it right now, Buckner Lane. We don't need another one.
Okay, coordinator.
Yes, in full disclosure, I live on Pantel Road, which could become a through road into the Alexander property if Spring Hill was to get its way. I'm obviously not in favor of yet another thoroughfare that directs shortcut traffic through our town into Spring Hill. So as it relates to the interchange itself, I agree it needs to go to the south. I've always been an advocate for moving it south and out of Thompson Station. By the way, the agreement that we did sign with Spring Hill and has acknowledgement by Williamson County as well as TDOT is that there's an understanding that it will move further south and move the traffic where it needs to be. Also as part of that, there's a minimum of one, probably two interchange quadrants that will be economically and viable new town property within the town limits of Thompson Station. So we will trade with Spring Hill if we need to with town boundaries to ensure that we have economics on the interchange. One thing about interchanges, Mars was contemplated as a truck stop. 431 on the southwest quadrant has also been looked at as a truck stop. Again, those are the types of entities and businesses that probably have their place, but I don't hear everyone in Thompson Station clamoring for those kinds of economics on that interchange. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's go back to Barbara and Greto. Both of you claim experience and leadership as one of your strengths in running our town. What specific skills and experiences from your education and work life pertain to managing and leading a growing town such as Thompson Station?
Absolutely. I sell real estate. Everybody knows that. I'm a realtor. I negotiate contracts all the time. I help people with probably what for most people is the largest investment that they'll ever make in their lives. That's what I do for a living. You know, my experience, I've served as alderman for 3 years now, going on 4 years, almost 4 years, November 4th. Prior to that, I've been chairman of the board of the planning committee. I've served on the design review committee, so I have a lot of experience serving this community, and it's all in public service.
Okay, thank you, Coordinator.
Sure.
Education and experience in your job as mayor.
Yes, I've had the privilege and honor of serving our town for 6 years as mayor. And prior to that as an alderman, so about 10 years of leadership service to our town. I've served in many different capacities over the years, working on the comprehensive land use plan and our code that we now have. I've also volunteered for the community association events and helped raise money for the annual fall festival based on business and personal relationships, as well as being able as mayor to ask folks to give to our community. And so that's been great fun, and I'm proud of being able to help our community that way. Consistent leadership in the charitable and civic arena. I've chaired 2 different not-for-profit boards, Hospital Hospitality House in Nashville that works with basically a Ronald McDonald House for anyone. It's over there next to Centennial Park, as well as being treasurer and board chair of Oasis Center that works with at-risk youth. My job is I'm a wealth advisor. We talked about fiduciary responsibility earlier. I'm a registered independent advisor with Waddell & Associates, and I work with small business owners on combining their personal and business wealth and investment needs, and basically serve as a financial sounding board for them as they go through life.
Okay, and finally, you have a 2-minute closing statement, and there will be no rebuttals. And could you go first, Corey Andrews?
Sure. I think before us tonight is really thinking through leadership of our community and what you expect out of a leader. You know, I really, you know, this role becomes bigger than your self-interest. It better become bigger than that. Because ultimately, I represent every one of you that are sitting out in the audience. I'm your neighbor. We talk, that's the beauty of being a mayor. I think as you go into higher levels of office, whether you're a governor, senator, you get surrounded by folks that protect you, if you will, from the folks out there that might want something from you. The beauty is people walk into my, or drive up my driveway and want to have a conversation, talk to me about what's on my mind. And that's what I think the mayor is all about, is that personal connection, one-on-one, understanding the local issues and understanding the challenges that confront us. And so, as mayor, I think you have to say, are they a champion? Are they an advocate for this town? Do they have the best interests of the town? Are they aligned with where this town is going? Do we share the same values? Do we have a long-term stake in this community? And are we also going to protect our community? I think the role of the mayor is to protect the community. You're an advocate, but you're also a protector. And that gets to the heart of being a public servant. So combine that with good stewardship and a respectful relationship with everybody in your community, regardless of their background, and whether they're newcomer or oldcomer. I think that's what you all want as your leader. And I ask for your continued support and your vote, because we are on the cusp of something remarkable. We are already well down that road. People every day are choosing to live in our town based on the values that we stand for, like looking out for each other, the night skies, the wildflowers and the ditches and the fields, and the camaraderie that we share as a community, because we can come together in a forum like this and have a great public conversation about our future, our collective future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nina Cooper, your closing statement.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for sponsoring this event again. Here in Thompson Station, we have a wealth of history. We need to protect it. As your mayor, I will lead the effort to update and add to our land use plan so we preserve and protect our historic and rural areas and keep the character of our community alive and healthy. As your mayor, I'll build relationships that will help us achieve our goals. I'll work diligently, and I'll work with Williamson County, Spring Hill, TDOT, and other state agencies. As your mayor, I'll promote sound economic development, but we'll make sure those initiatives are well vetted and right for Thompson Station by getting the input of our citizens. And here in Thompson Station, how we deal with growth will impact our future financial situation that is necessary to support our quality of life. We cannot afford to borrow another $1 million to pay our bills, and it's new businesses and services that will help give us a tax base, they'll help keep us from borrowing money, and they'll help us with our infrastructure such as roads and parks and trailway systems. And lastly, as your mayor, I will implement leadership through transparency. People deserve an open government. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you this evening. I appreciate the support that I received 4 years ago when I ran for alderman and received the highest number of votes. And I now ask for your trust and your vote again on November the 4th. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here, and thank you both for